Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the show. This episode is brought to you by The Wellness Paradigm, a holistic health coaching company shifting the way that women understand and heal their bodies. Through bioenergetic testing, functional lab testing, and functional nutrition, we uncover what traditional approaches often overlook. So you can stop guessing, start healing, and finally feel like yourself again. No more one size fits all protocols, just real answers, deep rooted healing, and the clarity and confidence you deserve to feel incredible. It's time to shift the paradigm of women's health. Now, on to our show. And good afternoon or good morning to you where you are at. So I am so excited that you're here. This is going to be such a fun conversation with,
No
I think,
pressure.
is it Andrea or Andrea?
Andrea sounds great. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
asked that before, but reading her bio, I was like, oh, this is going to be so fun. So many good nuggets. She's actually a former elite athlete doing freestyle wrestling, and fitness coach who's now a professional stunt woman, which is so cool. And she's also built this movement and mindset company geared towards women in leadership, helping them overcome perfectionism, build confidence that's rooted in creative movement and play, which is incredible. So I would love for you to tell us a little bit more about who you are and how you got started in this work.
Oh my gosh. Well, first off, thank you, Shannon, for having me on today to have a juicy chat. I love your podcast and I'm just, yeah, excited to be a part of the paradigm shift. Also, I totally forgot your first question now.
Just tell us a little bit more on who
Oh
Andrea is.
yeah, me. Okay, talk about me. Yeah.
Thank you for the nice words. I really love it.
Yeah, well, I'm based in Vancouver, Canada, and I'm a professional stunt woman in film and television. That's how I fill most of my time. When I'm not doing that, I am a mom of a small boy and two dogs and a grown man, a mom to all. And I'm lucky to live in the beautiful mountains. And so most of my free time and regenerative activities are in the mountains or in the water, out in nature. And so I find the balance of film life is required. Before that, I got a business and kinesiology degree in university where I wrestled for the national team for 10 years, which I think is still a pretty unique sport for like women to have been a part of and part of the history. And I was a gymnast before that, but I got too tall and old by the age of like 14. So I had to switch sport and I found wrestling.
How interesting. That really is such an interesting sport for women. I don't really know many people, a lot of men. Um,
Yeah.
and how did that transition into stunt work?
Yeah. Well, I've finished my, career as an athlete. And there's always been a transition period of like, what do I do now? This has been my whole life. But I have always been like a gymnastics coach, a sports coach. I've always been in that world. And I was doing parkour and free running, which, if you don't know, it's kind of best described as like urban gymnastics, Um, and and the people that I was training and competing with around the world, they were getting into films doing this sport. Um, and I just had this moment of like, oh, like I can get into the movies, like doing this thing that I train 3 hours a day and play at.
Yeah.
And that was it for me. I was like, I need to pack up my car, drive to Vancouver, and just be in the film scene. And like, I need to be a stunt performer. Like, that was my dream since a long time of was being like an action hero. Just didn't know how to do it.
So incredible. I love this. And
Thanks.
so, how do you now use some of these concepts of, stunt work and movement into what you kind of do in addition to the stunt work?
Yeah. So I honestly I see my stunt work as being a professional athlete. That's the way I've always
Yeah.
treated it. So it's an extension. And so I take healing, nutrition, mindset, psychology. I take all of that very um, uh, those are top priorities in order to do my career. And that's why I started up Live Your Fears, which is a movement and mindset coaching company because um, I've never been truly just a fitness coach or a sport coach, and I'm not a life coach. So there's this beautiful blend that I found really through stunt work where you have to be so aware of where you are at both like emotionally, mentally, physically, and then you have to be a character and then you have to do these really physical feats. And so there's some really beautiful things that came out of, that experience that I thought were really useful for people, especially women in leadership positions, of like the analogies of what movement can give to us through like confidence, fear of failure, overcoming obstacles, teamwork, self-worth, all of those things. And I was like, man, you get that through like these kind of like movement training. And it doesn't have to be, on fire, diving through a glass window, falling 20 feet to do that. Like that's like my form of fun sometimes, but like there's like very, very basic, easy ways to like live that analogy with very powerful lessons.
Oh, that's so funny. You're like, that sounds fun to me. I'm like, oh God.
Yeah. Hard
This is why
pass.
you're in
Yeah.
that profession and I am not. But I'm curious, teaching these sort of physical modalities, movements, like what have you seen as far as women and how they've been able to kind of overcome certain things like perfectionism or, overthinking, whatever it is that you mainly see, like how have those correlations kind of connected to each other?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think if I were to put it down into like one main overall theme is fear, right? And I think perfectionism is a bit of, fear of failure. In my mind, that's kind of how I describe it, right? We want to guarantee success, so we build the perfect plan. We ensure that our environment is 100% controlled because then we will be 100% successful. Um, and getting to that environment is really tricky. And so um, I've just found that really tackling fear of failure
Mm,
is like it helps with confidence, it helps with perfectionism, it helps with all of that. And so I bring it to the literal level of I teach most of my clients how to physically fall properly, safely, with strength and grace and coordination. And that's usually what I teach before I teach any kind of physical skill or anything. I teach proper falling techniques because my belief is when we learn how to fall first, we are less afraid to try.
mm,
And that falling is a technique that you can learn and practice and become comfortable with and embrace and use as a tool. And as soon as you have that in your tool belt, trying something that's out of your comfort zone, whether it's physical or not, right? It's less scary, it's less intimidating. And then we learn to embrace, that failure of like, oh, I fell. Okay, back up because I can try again because I'm not dead. I didn't die from it. Like it's survivable, both, literal and not literal.
hmm
Mm-hmm. And so really, yeah, for me, like as soon as I learned that, and this is like, I'm a recovering perfectionist. Like as an athlete and born and raised, like, that I can honestly share that perfectionism has like limited my success in the past. And, I got in my own way with it. And so I was very determined to learn my lessons through this stunt career. Um, and it's just funny because most of what we do in stunts is falling down. Like you rarely see polished, clean, perfect movements in stunts. It's messy, flailing limbs, chaos. And that there is a way to do that like safely and repetitively, you know. And I just think that that is just such a beautiful lesson to learn that I really wanted to share with anyone that would listen or anyone that's brave enough to like fall and roll with me.
I love this lesson. I mean, I know I feel like I get this a little bit every day with a child that is now walking slash running. It's like, and they just fall down all the time, just get back up. It just didn't even phase them most of the time.
No,
Um,
but like mostly totally unfazed or looking at you to be like, should I be fazed by
that's
this?
100%. Yes, looking externally, like, wait a minute, should I be freaking out right now? No, okay, it's cool. Let's. Which is why it's so important as parents to regulate your nervous system. But different conversation.
True, true.
Um, but I feel like a lot of women, especially high achieving women, like we really struggle with play, and like what that really means, what that feels like. I feel like we get very structured, very stressed, very like, we don't think that we have time for this or, that that's going to help us excel. So I'd be curious on how you shift that paradigm for people.
I love that you touched on that because I mean I'm a professional player, right? Like I literally get paid to play, to dress up in a costume, be a character, and like do fun things. And so, I would say one that does come easily to me. But I want to give all of the like, super badass, really, high achieving any women out there grace in that like we don't got time for it all, right? And that um and so I completely understand why play is like something that we've been trained to be like, that's when I'm done everything else, then I can go and enjoy play. And
Um,
um I think what I would say to that is prioritizing some play.
mm,
I promise that it will change your life because it is not without its productivity metrics, if you will. Like play is productive. Um, Neurologically, we learn skills faster when it's done through play. So whether that's a new activity, whether that's a new skill, whether that's, working out or, you know, we learn so much faster and we build our neural pathways faster. I mean, I'm not a neuroscientist, but this is just what, I've learned over time. We build them faster and also then we enjoy the learning process more when we do it with play. And that's why kids are just sponges because they are learning through play. And so, they're um, it's a really powerful tool. Also, why wouldn't we want to learn to laugh at ourselves a little bit and be less afraid of getting into the messy and getting into the chaos? And like, I really truly feel like that's when we have our biggest aha moments, right? We
mm,
don't typically have aha moments when we have everything structured and settled and predicted. And
yep.
so when we just add just a little bit of spice to our day, our life, our routine, I have found with all of my clients and with myself, there's just these like magical aha moments when we
Mm,
just let ourselves play. And for me, that looks like either trying something totally new that we are unfamiliar with. Sometimes it's going out in public and trying something, even something that we know how to do, but doing it in public without caring what somebody thinks, right? Like when was the last time you went to like a playground and that you actually played on the playground, right? And yeah, I just it fills my cup. It helps regulate our nervous system, and it
mhm.
really is like it's a change facilitator, if you will.
Yeah, for sure. I love that outlook. Now, I feel like in the work you do, it's very taxing on your
Mhm.
body, and
Mhm.
there's definitely an element of trying to, you had mentioned it earlier about taking care of your body, holistically. But I'd be curious on what you do to actually like, if
Mhm.
you do this for your work and you do this for your both sectors of your work, like how do you take care of your body?
Yes, because I probably yeah I'm an extreme case, I think, right? Like I do extreme things with my body, and so I need to take extreme measures to balance out. And what I will say is like one, I'm not 20 anymore. I'm not 30 anymore. And and I'm a mom. And so all of those things, um, I they made me realize even more how important balancing out the work that I do is. And I think the best lesson I learned wasn't through stunts, but was through motherhood, was that uh, we can change the way we do things and still have a positive result. And I say that as someone who has been working out and, being physically active at a high intensity my whole life. I've experienced burnout. I've experienced really bad injuries. I've experienced pregnancy, which was, a whole journey unto itself. And I always, coming back after pregnancy, the hardest part for me was that I felt like I needed to do, a 90-minute gym session in order to get gains. I felt like I had to, go to my Taekwondo class and go for a swim and do all of these things in order to be strong, healthy, mobile, a good performer. And one, I didn't have time for it. I didn't have the energy for it. And then I burnt out. I went through a cycle of like self shame that I'm not good enough because I can't manage it all.
Yeah.
And then you realize you're like, it's not meant to be that way. And what if we did it differently?
Yeah.
And I had a really great trainer postpartum, and she's a circus performer. So she just gets things. She's like, what if we just did 20 minutes a day? And like, and that took a long time to trust that process. And anyways, fast forward at the end of it, I ended up doing more
Yeah.
for my body in less amount of time. And the consistency of doing a little far
Mm.
outweighed trying to get that large, perfect idea of a workout is. And so I'd say that that was my first shift, was doing less more often,
Mm-hmm.
and then really changing that rest,
Mm-hmm.
true rest, is being productive. And I had to retrain my heart, body, and soul to believe
Mm-hmm.
that rush of like having to be productive with every minute of your day. At
Yep.
some point in time, your tank goes empty, and then you're running around trying to do things, half-assed. And so you're not doing things very well. You're not getting it all done, and you're exhausted.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, I get massages, I get acupuncture, I do a little bit of cold dipping. I love saunas. Like I really, you know, really take care of like my tissue and my body. And I use that time to like unplug, unwind, you
Mm.
know, just think, enjoy, have my phone away, those kind of things. And it's been not a perfect balance because like
That doesn't
I'm,
exist.
yeah, that's not me. But I would say that I've had the most success with, I'm still doing this, I'm still doing stunts 10 years later while balancing motherhood and a coaching company. And, I feel overall pretty like balanced and content. So that's kind of my gauge that my new program is working.
Mm. I think a lot of women listening have gone through this journey. I know that many of our clients during my journey. I mean, I was a professional dancer turned bodybuilder, burnt out, autoimmune issues, you name it. And it's like people really underestimate the power of, I love what you said is like consistency over frequency, but also just like that your body needs time to recover. Like you will get further ahead by not burning yourself out, especially, I mean, motherhood's a whole nother journey of that. But, just even just being a career-driven woman, like your time might be split in certain places, and it's like sometimes more is not better, right? And it does over time wear you down. So I love that viewpoint that you bring up.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like the only one other thing I would add is sometimes the struggle I would have once I got into that, like less is more, is, the days where you're like, I don't feel like doing it versus like, do I have the capacity for it? And I think a lot of people fall into that, that trap of oh, like I feel tired, or I don't feel like, or it feels overwhelming to do it. And I think again, that little bit, that 10-20 minutes a day of something when we're not feeling like it, and when our priority is the goal that requires that amount of work. So
Yeah.
there's a few factors I put in that, right? Like if it's not serving us, fine, like don't do it. But if you have a certain, goal of health and wellness, of strength, of skill, of something, like you only get that by putting the time in. And I will say, on the days where I'm like, oh gosh, like my kid has been screaming all day, like the house is messy, like my body is sore from, working on a movie set the day before, I'm like, I can go and take my dogs for a 20-minute walk in the mountains, like 20 minutes, just get outside, get moving. And I come back a better human. And so I even think sometimes like in my workouts, as like you've done a lot of working out in your life, right, as a bodybuilder, um, that my weight training sessions sometimes are just going down to the gym for 20 minutes and doing my exercises lightly, but
Yep.
going and doing them. And I always, without fail, feel better about
Mhm.
like carving out that time of consistency. I feel more accomplished. My body does feel better. I feel more regulated. Um,
Mhm.
and it just means that, yeah, still doing it because it's part of my goal, means to my end, but letting it look different.
Totally. Um, something I talk a lot about with clients, but it's just like whether it's a walk or a workout, sometimes we don't always feel up for it. And that's okay. Like you don't have to push through it all the time, but at some point, you know, if we have ignored it for years now, we might have to just get the body used to moving again and feeling those wins and feeling the endorphins, But it's like go down and, maybe you take a walk for 2 minutes. And if you're like, after that, I'm gonna call it. If I don't feel like it, awesome. Working out, same thing. Like I know this a lot, especially postpartum, but it was like, I'm gonna go down and I'm going to stretch for 5 minutes and just warm up. If after that I don't feel like it, I set that's my boundary. Okay. I did it. I said it. I'm not going to feel guilty about it because that was what I said. If I didn't feel up for it, I would tried. Amazing. But probably 80% of the time, I went through with that workout, right? And clients, same thing. It's like they'll go through with it, they'll, or their walk or whatever it is. And it's like, just giving your body that opportunity to to get in that position with no pressure, no guilt, no shame, no story behind it. Just I'm going to do this. And if I feel good about it, I keep going. And you will probably do that. Probably finish the workout and
Yeah.
feel great after, right?
And then, like you said, like then finding that win in just showing up, whatever that looks like. I really love that balance between a bit of persistence, but grace with yourself of like setting reasonable expectations.
Oh,
Yeah.
girl, reasonable expectation. That's a whole nother one too, right? It's like,
I'll let you know when I figured it out and mastered it. Okay.
nobody figures it out. But it's, what? That's such a tough one when you're a high achieving woman, right? Because it's like our expectations tend to be higher. And it's like on one end, it's like, yeah, go for gold, But on the other end, it's like, we get out of touch with our feminine intuition on like what actually feels good, right? Instead of just like
Yes.
what's the next level, right? And that's a fine line to bear, especially when you have kids too, and it's not just about you too, right? It's you're juggling multiple hats. And so yeah.
Yeah, I see that absolutely with some of my clients in like that confidence piece where
Hmm.
we have big goals and we're used to achieving,
Yeah.
great things. And I'm not saying we shouldn't, but when we blindly just look at that big goal and like you said, and we don't take the time to celebrate the progress or the little wins, which does, take
Yep.
time and to like actually celebrate it, not like unapologetically
Yep.
and just loudly be like, I'm enough. I'm doing great. Like I did something and like that is something. And I think that when we forget to do that, our self-worth starts to get tied to just that end goal
Yep.
versus all of the skills and knowledge and gains that we've acquired along the way. And speaking from experience, right, like I had a goal of making the Olympics in wrestling. That was my dream, and I had a very successful like athletic career, but I did not make the Olympics. I came up just short. And I remember, that being very devastating. And it took me probably until maybe about 7 or 8 years after I retired to look back and be like, oh, like I was one of a very few number of people that could even compete or show up at that level. You know what I mean? I trained 3 hours a day. I won, whatever it was, awards and championships and all of that. Like I still achieved so much. And I kind of like slapped myself on the wrist for taking 8 years to be like, you still have so much from that to offer yourself and other people. And so, yeah, when I try to impart that lesson on friends, family, and clients of like every win is a great win. Yeah. And of how important it is.
So true. Yeah. I think we sometimes too, it's also looking at it like UK, we'll use you're very dramatic of making the Olympics, which is, incredible, but but sometimes it's like we don't realize in that moment like why that didn't work out for us and it's working out for our, highest good. And, but we really minimize. We don't, when it's like, okay, yeah, all of these 20 other championships, whatever, but I didn't make the Olympics, just using the word but all the time. It's like, yeah, this is fine, but I didn't achieve. And it's like, yeah, you just kind of beat yourself down and your version of self-love and self-worth just keeps going down, down, down. And then we realize even if you hit that goal, how do you feel when you hit that goal? It's not going to feel the same if you're coming from a place of almost self-hatred, which we don't think about, but that's really kind of where it is. Or you know, and not from the space of, alignment or love or whatever you want to call it, and that's a hard one. That took me a while. I was like, I don't really care how I feel, what I do, as long as I accomplish X. I don't care,
Yes.
and guess what? My body did with my autoimmune issues and my burnout and yeah, it sure as hell did, but
Yeah,
yeah,
we manifest that stuff hard. It's a tough lesson to learn that
yep,
like no one else is gonna like dictate our worth for us. It's really up to us.
yes.
Yeah.
That's a big one. We talk about this on the podcast too a lot, is just high performing women and self-love. I remember when I first I had hired a mindset coach postpartum just to help move through business and postpartum, and he at one point he's like, "All right, we're going to talk about self-love." And I was like, "Oh." I was like, "I
Can we
want."
just skip that chapter?
I was literally like, "My goal is business, like XYZ, like and it's like, and he's like, "Okay, but you're not really loving yourself." I was like, "I love myself." He's like, hate to break it to you. You didn't really tell me I didn't, but it was just like there were all these self-deprecating things that I was doing, not realizing it, but thinking I loved, because I did genuinely feel like I did. But so
Right.
much was coming from this misaligned, abuse, almost like a self-abuse place.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it. So, I mean, if somebody's listening and they're like self-love, blah, I feel you. It's okay to feel that way. And it's also the highest energetic, place we can be is this feeling of love, right? And true appreciation. So, yeah, don't forget about it along your journey.
I love that you found that too. And like, I think it just sets a really beautiful example for any of the women listening of like, um, the people that have, opened the door to self love, to fighting perfectionism, to, overcoming fear of failure. Like, we overcame it because we were there already.
Yep.
Like, these are things that we have experienced. It's, and sharing that knowledge. And I think there is something super special about high achieving women that have gone through parenthood that is like fighting battles on so many fronts, and
Yes.
you are forced to learn so much about yourself and what you're capable of. And I do think the best things come to the people that learn to love what they bring to the table and appreciate it. And I do think you bring in so much more opportunity, success, and love when you do the work on the inside. And I typically do it through movement. That's how I teach it. Like for me,
Mhm.
that's the fastest analogy is once you get your body moving and you get in, connected to your body and you start to learn what your body is physically capable of, wherever that is, without like a goal of like, I want to be able to do 5 pull-ups, like just
Yeah.
connected to, well, and you as a dancer, you understand this at a very like, profound level of when we know what our body is capable of, that transcends to our brains in relationships, in psychology of like, we stand differently, we hold space
Mhm.
differently when we know what our limbs are doing in space. And I just think that it is, yeah, I just think it's such an important lesson is to connect with our bodies and build that awareness so that we have the confidence to hold space in whatever world arena we are in.
Totally. 100%. Well, I think that this is kind of it's a really beautiful place to kind of wrap up, but I would love for people, if they wanted to kind of get to know you, your work, kind of more about what you do, where can people find you?
Great. Yeah. So Live Your Fierce coaching. It's on Instagram, live your fierce underscore coaching. Also liveyourfierce.com. And yeah, you can look for my body on film and television, rolling around, falling, doing all those things.
So cool. I love that. Um, well, amazing. Please go check her out. If you guys found this episode helpful, would love for you to either shoot her or I a DM, let us know some of your takeaways, or leave a review so other women can hear this really cool conversation as well. But thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Andrea, for being here, and we'll catch you on the next show.
Thanks, Shannon. Have a great day, everyone.